is up, everybody? This is General Spear here. Welcome back to another episode of Art Shenanigans. How y'all doing today? Hope you're all having a good afternoon, good morning, good evening. We are back with another ep, and the first ep on the playlist we were working on our Spartan Rex drawing, but I decided to do another tutorial video for you guys and whatnot. That kind of encompasses something altogether different, but that will be used in that video. And I thought I'd better explain it here with one of my one of the pieces of artwork that I've been doing, kind of off the side of the Spartan Rex video. In fact, this is one of several pieces that I'm working on. For those who don't know, I'm a big fan of the pinup and boudoir art from World War II era, all the artwork that was on like the propaganda posters and also on the planes for the aircraft and whatnot, kind of the nose art that was on there. This is kind of my own. This whole thing is kind of my own take on that style, and on that specific artwork itself. And I'm kind of making it my own design in a way. I pulled up a photo of a model that I'm using for this figure, but I have changed a few things to, make it my own. I've made the hair longer. I've made the boobs a little bit more, or breasts, if you so choose. I've made these a little bit more, correct in terms of the proportion, because her boobs were like out to here kind of thing, in which I'm just like, that's not natural. That's a lot of back pain right there. So what I'm probably going to do off camera as well, is bring this arm out and kind of bring it back in, this, what I actually, kind of out to here and then there, and then have the hands kind of wrap around there, but that's for later. Today, what we're going to be focusing on is clothing in armor. Now, in the Spartan Rex video of what we first did, we first formed the body and kind of just general layout and everything. Of which will in all that. In that next video that we do of the Spartan Rex drawing is that we will be working on armor and clothing and whatnot. But that's a longer tutorial, and I thought we'd just get our feet wet with kind of some of the mechanics of how armor and clothing are really supposed to work. One of the things I want to briefly discuss is that, in a lot of video games, and especially a lot of CG animated movies, the armor and clothing, the clothing has always been pretty good. The armor, however, is a little lackluster. Like, for example, I found this to be the case in both the Clone Wars and as well as a lot of other films and video games, is that you'll have skin-tight armor. And this is not something that clamps along the side here. No. This is a free-formed, or not a free-formed, this is like a completely molded around the arm. And the problem with this is, you got the form of the arm, and that all makes sense, but the opening down here is tighter around the wrist than what you're able to get your hand in and out of. Which is non-realistic to how actual armor works. What I was so happy about is for episodes 2 and 3 of Star Wars in particular, is that they actually had armor that wrapped around and kind of gave a little bit of opening for the hand to get through, which is more correct to how actual armor is. But for this particular character, we're going to be doing both some clothing as well as some armor pieces. And that's kind of what I've been doing. If you've not seen the products on my Etsy shop, you should definitely go check it out. Support me in the channel. There's some pinup art that I've already begun doing. and in kind of that pinup slash boudoir fusion. Definitely go check it out. It'll help support the channel if you send some coin my way. But in any case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on the clothing first. Now, I already have an idea of what to do for this particular female model here. And interestingly enough, as I said before, I've been using actual models from real life, putting them in Photoshop, doing an outline overlay of the entire the body basically, but kind of changing up the model such that it's not the exact same photo, but kind of the pose is the same overall. And like I said, I'm going to be putting in an arm and other things. Or maybe I didn't say that before. I can't remember. Oi. Basically, I'll be changing this up where there's going to be an arm there with her hand like that. If I didn't show you before already, I know I did. I'm forgetting things. This is not good for my young mind. But in any case, today what we're going to be focusing on is clothing and armor. And I already have an idea for what I want to do. I want to do a dress. I want to do a nice dress on her. Maybe something that's kind of alludes to the fact that there's an upskirt kind of thing going on here, but not too much. I'm thinking definitely kind of along the more lines of a V-neck or that kind of a neck there. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on that, and we're just gonna sketch it out. By the way, for all you new subscribers that have been coming on the last few weeks, this is what I do professionally. Well, more or less professionally. Now, for the dress here and the boobs, the boobs, or breasts, whichever you prefer. I prefer either. I am all right either way. We're going to kind of do a line that's kind of outside of the top curvature of the breast itself. And we have the fabric kind of wrapping around and behind the neck, which is absolutely correct. If you're not a 3D thinking person, I would highly suggest taking either a ceramics or a sculpture class, because that will gear your mind. Especially if you're an artist, or even just getting into art, if you can't think 3D like this, taking a sculpture class or a ceramics class is definitely a good way to go. I did ceramics for about 10 years. I just started getting into sculpture within the last few years, and it's really helped me think 3D mode a lot. Kind of do a little lip there for underneath the arm. She's going to be sleeveless in the arms. And for the kind of the underside, unless you actually have a belt up this high here, that dress is not going to come right in that crevice there. It's not going to do that. But what dresses will do is we'll kind of hug the boob right there. And we'll assume that she's wearing a bra already. That's what I kind of like to do when I draw the boobs, is unless I'm actually drawing figures, in the nude or anything like that, because I have done that before. Also, if you're getting into drawing people, do a figure drawing class. It's really fun. Unless I'm drawing them in the nude, I will draw the boobs, usually looking as if they already are in a bra or a bralette or whatever floats the boat, so that the dress or any clothing that comes outside of it can kind of just free form over that, and I can just round that off there. And then for down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add kind of a hint of a belt section. And this will be for later, but I just want to get that shape blocked in. And the reason why we do that is because this will allow for the dress to kind of flare a little bit, but still be tight in there. I actually do want this to flare some. And I apologize if you hear that barking in the background. That is my wife's family dog. We are currently at her family place because finding a place in just anywhere in California is tough. Is rather tough. So we have this flared out. And I think what I'm going to do for the other side is I'm actually going to, underneath the fingers, do a little something like that. So the dress kind of arches around the lower back and back side like that, like we want to do. The dress here maybe has a little bit more flow to it, like it's not as tight on the body, which I like that look. And you wouldn't want it skin tight anyways, unless it's something like leather or unless you actually have a skin tight dress. I've seen that quite a few times. It's not always the most attractive looking, I'll be honest. But there are dresses that I've seen, especially on my wife, that are very nice indeed. She's a very curvy woman, and I love it. So that's the dress, and if we go ahead and do that, that's actually a pretty nice dress shape overall. And actually what we can do is a little of that, and that kind of shows a bit more in the fabric there. And then without this layer at the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take and do some kind of ruffles in a way. Well, not ruffles, but where the fabric bunches up a little bit, kind of just draw in some lines for those areas and whatnot, which is absolutely fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to my layer 2 where I have the model. And I'm going to erase some areas here. He's erasing. He's not supposed to do that. He's an artist. Trust me. Artists erase all the freaking time. All the time. Alright. So it looks pretty good. I'm going to fix up the hair a little bit. I'm going to fix up the hair a little bit later. But that's the dress on our model here. And it actually looks pretty nice. It's how I want the flow and everything. It kind of accentuates the body without taking away stuff. And actually, now that I think about it, I do want this dress to act as if it's a little shorter than what it is. So I'm going to undo quite a few things. Because I want my reference. I do remember wanting to do that. Kind of do a little upskirt action. And this dress, I think, is going to be shorter overall than perceived, which is just absolutely fine. And underneath here, there can be like skin or whatever. It's halfway down the thigh. It's fine. Well, this thigh, maybe not so much. But in any case, Um, all right, so we have that. And then down here, down in this section, we're going to focus on this area here. And I'm actually going to take this layer, fade it, and do a new layer. And then I'm going to select, I need to get more brushes, that's for sure. I'm going to increase the brush size there. And what I'm going to do, yeah, I need to get better brushes. Notice what I'm doing. I'm kind of following the curvature of the dress, and then I make this bend, and then I kind of follow a line here for a fold, and then I'm going to continue that line there. That right there is a nice way of doing kind of a fold in a dress without deviating too much from the original here. We're going to kind of do the same thing on this side, though not so much, because this is a curve in which you have the curve up of the dress and you see the back of the dress here. But if anything, you do that. Kind of the same on this side. Oh, good lord. I really do need better brushes. And of course, I'll clean that up. What I can do to show a little bit of fabric thickness is kind of leave that gap right there, but start this curvature around like so. Which actually looks pretty good. Oh, good lord. That's not attractive at all. Alright. So that looks pretty good. And actually what I want to do really is move that to, well, never mind. We're going to go back to layer 3 real quick. And we're going to begin working on the armor components that I want for this particular piece. I want a forearm here. I might do a shoulder piece here when I get the forearm, or when I get the arm over here worked out. In fact, you know what? Let me cut right here on this video. Let me do the arm real quick, and then I will be right back for further stuff. So just hold on a moment. Okay, ladies and gents, we are back, and I have fixed the arm, or at least added another arm. I think it looks pretty good. Seems to be in proportion with the other one, and I like the placement and everything. It might be a little bit higher up on the hip. We might accentuate this bulge here. If I can just, yes, I know. I'm on the wrong layer. There we go. I'll play around with that a little bit more, but that's pretty much the other arm there. I went in and I cleaned up some of the line work. Of course, I'm going to do that, off camera for the finished piece, but that looks a lot better, and I am very pleased with how that looks. And whatnot. We might add just a little bit of curvature there, and maybe angle this more towards the center here, just to give her a little bit more mass. But I think that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. We'll play around with that a little bit more. But for the next phase of what we're going to do is armor. Now, as I mentioned previously, we're not going to do armor that looks like it's a part of the body. We want to make it look like it's separate from the body or able to be separated from the body. And that means, especially for the arm, the forearm that we do, um, we're going to make it such that it looks like it's able to be slipped in, or like the hand is able to slip in and out of the forearm with relative ease, but also make it such that it doesn't look like it's going to come off entirely. So that's where padding underneath the arm, or comes into play. But the first thing that we're actually going to do, and it's a little bit simpler of a piece to draw, is the shoulder pad. And I want it on this shoulder here specifically. Now, I've done quite a few shoulder pieces so far for clone armor. And actually, a good reference for the shoulder pieces, this is what I thought about, is making them start out looking like a turtle shell, especially a sea turtle shell. A sea turtle shell starts out with kind of this, we have the frontal slope here where the head goes in and everything. We have the arched back that kind of, flattens out. And then we have this slope that goes like that. And then the turtle shell kind of goes like that. The clone armor, or at least the shoulder pad, is very much the same way. With that beginning, kind of slope there, or for like where, ideally a head would go on the turtle shell, but it's for the flatness of the shoulder here. Then we have the nice bend at the top here, and then we have the slope down the arm. Now, the reason why we have this gap here in between the arm itself and the shoulder top is because, A, there's going to be a little bit of padding under there, or at least I want that illusion to be a little bit of padding underneath there, as well as the fact that we're also going to add a bicep piece right underneath it. Actually, no, I take that back. We're actually going to add the bicep over here. So this slope can go like that, actually. And then, similar to that of the turtle shell, I'm going to wrap this around. And this shoulder, the woman here is kind of in a frontal, but not quite frontal, and in also potentially a 3/4 view, but not quite 3/4 view. We're going to see kind of the back of this, the shoulder pad here. And that will add another element of 3D effect. Kind of like so. And that looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that. I'll play around with it and clean it up. But that's the general idea of the shoulder pad there. And then for over here, we're going to begin the forearm and the bicep. And I'm actually going to start with the bicep first. And her bicep itself is kind of right in here, which will help us for a number of reasons, because there's a specific part of the bicep of the clone armor that sticks, like that's supposed to face forward, and that's this front curvature piece. And this is kind of the side here. We're actually going to draw the front panel right now of the bicep. Now we see the outer arm a lot more than we do the underarm, so we're not necessarily going to worry about the wraparound on this side, but we are going to worry about it on this side. And kind of create a little lip in the back for that. And that's kind of just the basic shape. Um, I think that's correct. I might need to pull up a reference here real quick for clone armor in particular. Let me look up some Google. Some nice Google images. Clone Trooper. Ironically enough, Google remembers my search. Clone Trooper images. Is that in front? It is. I was right. But what I am kind of exaggerating here is that curve, and it doesn't exaggerate quite so much. Wrap around there. Look as if it's going to do a corner bit there. And do that. That's kind of just the general shape there. And then for the forearm, it's actually really simple. And I am going off of. I go back and forth with whether I do the clone armor from the Clone Wars or if I do so from the movies. For this one, I'm gonna go ahead and do so. Excuse me. I'm gonna go ahead and do so from the Clone Wars, but not have it quite as tight. Around the wrist. That's the thing I always question, especially with the CRLs from the 501st. Is that the armor? Yes, it's supposed to look seamless, and yes, it's supposed to look for look at the and yes, it's supposed to resemble that of the clones from the Clone Wars and everything, but there goes a point of which what is real or what can be realistically be pulled off, and what can't. Okay, so we're gonna go with that. And this is the bit for the end of the arm here. And then there's a little attachment for the elbow on this particular piece that kind of sticks out and protrudes out right around there. And we do that. And that looks pretty good, all things considering. And then what I'm actually going to do is on this side, I'm also going to add another forearm on this side, just to add some more armor. So we'll worry about the cylindrical shape first. Remembering not to have it be as tight-fitting as normally portrayed in the Clone Wars TV series. And that actually goes for both the 2003 version and the 2008. Or at least the series that started in 2008. Because the series that started in 2003, it didn't last too long. Or, I mean, it lasted a fair amount, but it did not span years. I think it was all of like 1 or 2 years that the cartoon animated version of the Clone Wars showed. And then for the 2008 version, which was the CG animated version of the Clone Wars, which I think personally is the better one. that that spanned it a lot longer in terms of time. Sorry, just trying to think and draw at the same time. That's always an interesting aspect to being an artist. But that looks pretty good, more or less. And actually, what we're going to do, so we can really see our handiwork here, I'm going to quickly erase the various bits that we would not see because of it being covered up. Oh, and there's one more thing that I forgot to go over. The belt, which we will do very quickly here on camera, because I want to. It's the belt. It goes like that. There's a little bit of thickness around the back here. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see it. Oops. Sorry, I'm playing around with my Windows setting as well for the recording thing. Right in here, I'm actually going to delete a little bit of that. Right in here, on the curvature of the dress in the back here, we're going to do a little curve around like that. And on the outside of that, there's a little gap between the two here for the belt. And that basically allows for a more 3D'd effect when wrapping around said body. And the same thing is going to be applied for over here. Just like so. By the way, if you're wanting to know my settings for Photoshop, I am using the default settings, which is kind of the illustration mode, I guess, if you will, in Adobe Creative Cloud. I am on what is essentially a 17 by 11 canvas with at 300 pixels. And 300 pixels is actually a pretty good and decent pixelage for you to work on pieces that are in high detail. 72 is the default, but those are generally good for things like logos and things that are like in Illustrator. But no, I go 300 for a lot of my stuff, and that gets really good quality images. And you will too. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is and we're doing the Clone Wars belt, kind of keeping with the theme. There's a line there that I'm kind of following along the center of the body. In fact, I'm actually going to move it over just a tidge. About right there. So there's a line there. And there's a line down there. And then we go like that to the right. Or our right, basically. Her left. And there. And then there. And there's a little bit of a curve to it, because that creates a more curved line. And then we're going to go with that's for the belts. And these kind of create the little pads belt loops and everything. And then the last thing that we're going to do for the belt is going to take a line, make it straight because there's a reason for that. Do a line there. Have an angle line there and an angle line right there, kind of parallel to it. Going to connect these two lines and those two. I'm actually going to make this not quite so long. Do that, and make sure those line up. And this is essentially the ammo box. And actually, I'm going to take this line. I know I'm erasing stuff at the same time, but we're not going to see the stuff anyways. So it's fine. It is absolutely fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that angle, I'm going to accentuate that angle even more. Which means I need to do the same on this side. Parallel. And that looks a lot better. And maybe not quite as out there. And what I mean by that is I want to narrow it a little bit more, and that's how you do it, is you bring that line up a little bit. You narrow this a little bit more. And this line right here is the same, is parallel to that line right there. All right. That looks pretty good. And then we can add a little detailing right in here. And we have our ammo box. And that adds to the belt. And that looks pretty good. And then the last thing that I want to do really quickly, and this is really, really easy to do. If you have an image in here in Photoshop, click on the image, and if you have it like overlapping like this and you don't want it to, easy way of fixing this, really easy, is just erasing. Right up into the points of which your image and your model meet. And for anybody who's wondering, this will be, when it's finished, up for sale in my Etsy shop. For anybody who is interested. But that's basically the idea of how you do armor and clothing on models. That's the basic idea. That's really all you need to do. But that's going to conclude this particular episode, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this episode of Art Shenanigans. I'm sorry it ran a little long, but I hope you all enjoyed and learned something nonetheless. Feel free to always Hulk smash that like button. Come in the comment section below if you're new. Do not forget to subscribe. And as always, may the force be ever